Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Connecting Highline and our region.
History, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary pop culture.
We collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people.
We want to embrace our differences and similarities.
We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Hi everyone, this is Nancy from the Highline Heritage Museum and welcome back. As always, we have a really special guest, and what I say about that from everyone, I think everyone has something special to say, to share. This project is about connecting with our neighbors, with our friends, with our coworkers. There have been many times that I know people for many years and I had no idea the stories they had to share until I had the opportunity to do this project. And so this is about inclusion, this is about accessibility, this is about seeing each other. And then just seeing the other side. It's not just an institution or a title, but it's a human being behind that. And so with that, I want to say thank you to Matt for allowing us to do this interview. I think that you guys will find it really an interesting perspective of on the face of an institution and how it's not just all about the walls, but it's also the people behind it and who is representing that institution. And so as me, I'm traumatizing you. Well, he might also traumatize other people. And so now you can see that from a different perspective. So Matt, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and then we'll take it from there. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so tell us, who are you and what you do?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for this invitation. It means a lot to be able to have this conversation with you and to be in your wonderful institution. And for those of you who can't share the booth with us, we can see out onto the floor. And Nancy was just telling me what a treat that was for her to be able to do that. And I can see why. That's special. So again, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Matt Hayes. I have the honor of being the president and CEO of the Museum of Flight. And what's neat about my view of the Museum of Flight, at least from personal journey, is I started off as a volunteer and about 25 years ago. And I worked with men and women that were helping restore an aircraft and learned a heck of a lot more about life than bending sheet metal or whatnot. I usually was cleaning bird poop off the tail and listening to great stories. And from there, it became a love for the institution that somehow became my life's work.
When you think about volunteering at an institution, and I volunteer many times in many different capacities, why? Why do you like the museum, or there's something that it was personal that you were connected to the museum?
Well, it's a great question. I think for me, like a lot of people, there's something there that's important that you want to do, either personally learn or to try to achieve or try to help the community. And that was certainly the case with myself. And then like my professional journey where I was getting paid to do what I get to do, it became a situation where I kind of came for airplanes and learning and history. And then I kind of stayed because of the mission and the importance what was being accomplished. And then finally I decided this is really what I want to do with my life when it came to the people. And as your intro so well said, that's what it's all about. And so I think as a volunteer, that was my journey. And then becoming part of the paid staff, that was the same exact journey. I wanted to do it for one reason, stayed for another reason, made it my life's work for yet a completely different reason.
I think that I really love about you, that you actually understand what it is to volunteer, to go to a place because you want to be there, not because you had to be there. Right. Normally, I face many situations where people that would pay for one reason or another, there is this resilience, they're just not resilience, but this resistant to find joy in what they do. I mean, they like the work, but it's not the same as coming because you really, really want to.
Right.
And for you to experience that joy and that harness, that personal element, that you connection with the museum, but then moving forward. So now you understand. So there is, in some cases that I met many different people that they are in these titles, in these positions, but they are not connecting to the different layers of people and the layers of institution and the different areas that it covers. But if you start from a place of, hey, this is an artifact, hey, this is a personal story, hey, this is a team, and hey, this is because they want to be there, then you start from a place of really caring Instead of caring for a paycheck, instead of caring for, whatever agenda you have, it is you start you journey in a way that is authentic, in a way that is meaningful, not just to you, but whatever. So I'm just curious. So you're not just going to be cleaning an airplane, a regular airplane. What kind of airplane were you working on?
I was working on a B-17, which is a World War II aircraft, actually made by the Boeing company. And I worked on that one because I lived in the south of Seattle, and all our planes that we have are in a restoration center up in Everett. And this aircraft happened to be worked on in Renton. And so, it meant a lot to me. My grandfather built some of the radiators for the engines for for planes like that. And B, it was simply a convenience item. And then once I got on it, I didn't want it to stop. And, but again, your analogy or your story about that journey of understanding what it's like to be there because you love it and you want to be there. And you learn a lot in that process, or at least I did, that you learn, oh, well, they're going to get all my help, and that's some people, and I maybe a 20 something old me probably thought that too. Oh yeah, this place is, I'm going to be able to donate and they're going to get my help. And then you realize quickly you're getting as much back from it as there is. And then it just becomes this big mix and mingle of joy and service and help and kindness. And oh yeah, we're also working on airplanes. And that's a wonderful place to get to, and it's a wonderful maturation for a human being like myself to realize, oh yeah, I kind of went in there for either just because I wanted to do it or whatever, and you really come out with a different place. And at least for me, I haven't forgotten that. We have thousands, hundreds and hundreds of volunteers and tens of thousands, almost 100,000 hours of volunteer time. And I see in the light that they bring that that they're getting something out of it, and that's important too. And that what they bring, the wisdom, the experiences, the things that I'll never have or be able to bring to the table, that they do that every day, and they do it because they want to, just as you said.
Yeah, there's a complete different feel. I'm the only full-time staff person here at the museum, but being around people that cares, being around people that wants to, and it's a completely different feel and experience, and it's humbling that to see them pushing hard and to see them to coming together, like just in little issues with me lately, and just seeing how they all moving together as a family, as a team, and it's a really it's a lot of gratifications to be in a place like that where you see yourself, an institution, thrive and grow, and then find a meaning to the mission. Like you ask the question, why? What are we doing here? What are we wasting the time if it is just for a very specific agenda instead of really, well, we're here to serve the community. We're here to do history preservation. We're here to really connect with each other. And so there's this treasure that you just cannot buy. You cannot buy any of that. It is something that is built on values, that's grow on using the mission as the foundation of those values, and then just be next to a person and let's just go have fun, and then invite people around us to enjoy that. Correct me if this is correct. The Museum of Light is the largest museum in the state.
I don't know. It very likely may be. When it comes to non-governmental museums, when it comes to air and space, we're pretty much the biggest show around. But again, it's probably not measured in aircraft. It's measured in people and delivery of mission and volunteers, and hopefully the impact is when I think about the biggest. That's how I'd measure it. And if we lost half our collection to a fire or whatever, I still hope we could have the impact. And that's how people think about big in that role. We are a large institution. We've got a couple hundred plus full-time employees. As I mentioned, 70, 80, 90,000 hours of volunteer time. And it really is a blessing to be able to do that. But again, the reason I stay there is because those people care. They work really hard. I think there's a kindness and mostly there, and sure, we step in it. And there's a lot of times we don't do the right thing, or we could have done it better, or we're not listening to the community the way we should, or whatever. And intent only goes so far, but certainly there's that feeling there that we're trying to do something, and that people want to be there because they think they're hopefully making a difference in their part.
There's there's a journey that we all go through, and there are many different reasons why we're in the field that we're in, or that we are in the path that we're in the moment. But when you are with a group of people who are retired, for example, and that they already went in and out, and they already experienced so many things, and they really are harnessing the purpose of meaning, and they harness the sense of uh, joy. I mean, they're the ones who their bodies are aching. They're the ones who have encountered losses and got through life, what life is about, just the up and downs. And they still have, like you said, the kindness or the compassion or the warmth or those values. It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to find groups of people that they might not know how to do it, but they still go for it.
Yeah.
One time I was doing this exhibit, no, here it was a completely different, but it was big, and I was really desperate for help. And my volunteer, she was probably like 83, 84 years old at that time. And she's like, okay, I'm here, Huck, what can I do? I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't have anything for you that is like, sitting down in calmness, but we're in the middle of this installation. I'm desperate. So here's the hammer and here's the nails and here's the tools. And she's like, I never touched a tool in my life. And I'm like, well, it is great so that you can experience that. I mean, it will be wonderful for you to feel empowered grabbing a tool and just go for it.
Yeah.
And she just looks at me funny. She's like, just give it a try. You don't lose anything. If you cannot do it, or if you're uncomfortable, it's fine. But right now, this is what I need. And she just looks at me funny and a smile. I'll give it a try. I have never tried this, but I'll give it. And she was smiling. I mean, she was a bit frustrated and subconscious and a little nervous, but once she was able to grab the hammer, like, actually feels great. Like, I know it feels amazing to just go for it and get out of your comfort zone. And it just and that to me spoke more about her willingness to give.
Yes.
And be more than the actual help, but the willingness to be out of her comfort zone to help, and then out of that part, out of that experience, learning something about learning a new experience that all of us encounter. No, we don't come to this place, oh yeah, I know this, I know that. Like, no, you in the ring and you figure out how we're going to get out of the holes one at a time. So you when you were saying that you were helping with cleaning the airplane, do you have any airplane knowledge?
I have airplane knowledge. I grew up
Okay.
in a tiny, tiny farm town with more cows than people, and in a 150-year-old farmhouse that didn't have heat upstairs, and it was out by Buffalo, so it was a little chilly at times. Um, but I bring that up because I started flying. I was working on 3 farms, and I saved money from one of those to go learn how to fly. And I did that before I was driving my car. And then couldn't afford to do that for 10 or 12 years. And so I got my license. It was really cool. And I'm like, okay, and I'll go back to farming. And then but I got back flying again. So I know a little bit about planes, and I'm interested in history. And then, I came from a family of educators, whether it was, the local childcare at the local community area, which my mom did, and she was a teacher before I was born. And my dad was a teacher, then a principal, and then he taught education. And so I kind of came from these 3 areas of the aviation stuff, the education stuff, that hopefully most museums care about, and then the history stuff, which was interesting to me personally. And that worked well, but I knew enough about airplanes, but I'm not an airline pilot. I never flown jets. I don't know how to build them, but I used to know how to work on tractors. And so I at least had some mechanical ability and could transition some of that knowledge, but I learned how to do everything I did. There was a Rosie the Riveter that was actually on our crew. And she just gets so frustrated when I'm trying to rivet something, or trying to drill a hole. She was well into her 80s, like you say, and she just kind of go wrestle me to the ground. She goes, can't believe you kids don't know what you're doing. And that was wonderful. I mean, that was wonderful.
Those memories are just priceless. There's nothing in life that can substitute or buy or replace any of that, and all the way from the experiences and knowledge. And no, I just love it. I mean, as an immigrant and all that, whatever, but still, I'm able to appreciate the person in front of me. I'm able to appreciate the history. I was not born and raised in the area, but it is fascinating to see, like, oh my gosh, this thing happened, or look at this artifact, or meet people that have that knowledge, or just that pure learning lesson of being someone and then talking to that person and how much you get out of that. Talking about airplanes. I only got two relationships, but my first boyfriend, he was a pilot. And so one time he actually let me fly a Cessna. So I was a co-pilot. Oh my God. The adrenaline is there. The excitement is there. Your heart pumping is there. And it is so cool. He made a horrible mistake though. He was on my left side and I was on the right side. So I was compiling accordingly. So we had what do you call that in English? The wheel.
The yoke yeah.
And so I remember that out of nowhere, he's okay. Now you're the one. I'm letting go, and he was going down. Like I'm letting go, and we were young. Probably, we were young, and he was just being stupid. He was just diving in, and my first reaction, like you're an idiot, and it just he's diving in, and I'm pulling on the other side, pulling up and trying to go up. That's not the way to do that. Going down and going up at once in machine is not good. But anyway, so I do appreciate that the small airplanes and the adrenaline of actually flying something in the middle of the air. So I'm sure that was exciting for you.
Yes.
So the idea of connecting your personal story with people and then the mission that you have going at this point now as a director, now seeing it from an institution, I'm sure that you see the complexity of that. I mean, I'm a small little thing comparing to you, right? But you'll be a big restaurant, but I'm a small restaurant, but we still need to do the work. We need to do the back in the house, the front of the house. We still need to, do the servers and the meals and the menus and all the different opportunities and how to make sure that we sustain ourselves. Do you, as a director, is that joy that you feel is changing, or do you feel that is complementing because now you see the bigger picture? I'm talking about joy.
Yeah.
I'm talking about passion.
Question. Yeah.
And you don't have to answer. Like I said, just organically, you.
Yeah, I love that question because I'd be lying if every moment was a joyful one, and you know what that's like. I'm sure where whether it's the people side of it or the people side of it or the money side of it or the people side of it, there are challenges that you face, and so sometimes that joy in again what I thought I signed up for can dissipate. I won't lie, but the joy of working with your colleagues or your volunteers or the students that come through the door or your visitors or whatever it may be, or the people who just want to come and tell their story, that joy does increase. That joy is ever present. That joy doesn't dissipate. And so, yes, there are challenges. And yes, I've been through a couple of recessions where you're running checks to the bank and trying to meet payroll. And, yes, you meet challenging individuals that have challenging approaches to whatever, and I'll use whatever euphemism you want, but sometimes that isn't as joyful. But when you get again talking to another human being about their story, or another student about what their story could be, or then the joy's there, and that is just like everything else. What keeps me going.
To me, as I continue on this feel and in life in general, I always feel that if you have a challenge, it's an opportunity for you to appreciate the good things. That allows you to. I mean, you cannot enjoy a beautiful sunny day if you have never experienced the rain, the cold, the wetness, and you cannot enjoy a delicious meal if you have never been hungry. You cannot a long day. But it's just like the moment where you're just resting and like, okay, I can disconnect. And you cannot enjoy life if you don't encounter those things that enables to channel that joy and the passion and the conference. Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Yes, this place is a beautiful thing, but oh gosh, yes, that's what I got my punching bag right there next to my office. It's just because I do need to release that frustration, and it is there, but it is needed for me. I need that. I need that as a reminder to okay. Yes, there's some bad days, there's some situations, but then seeing the bigger picture. This is why I'm doing it. This is why we're doing it as a family or as a community or as a. The joy that I get, I guess the same, seeing those little ones around and it's just like, whoa, wow. And then it just, just finding the place for them to feel comfortable and that ignite that, I don't know, discover being curious, that sense of wonder that there's not that many places out there that offers that.
Mhm.
I mean, you can go to school, you can go to different places, but this sense of what am I gonna see? What are surprises out there? What is in there? And then it just allows you to be curious, not just physically or playing, but mentally, and being intrigued by stories and being intrigued by the people that are telling the stories. I don't know if I told you before, maybe I have. 20 plus years ago, I used to be an intern at the museum. And so after work, because I was working full time, and the only times that I could be an intern was after work. So it was just really little time every day for me to cover my hours. But because of that, it took me almost 6 months, just 1 hour a day.
Yeah, just to go see. Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of the normal 8 hour, 5 hour one day. No, that was like one little drop at a time. And it was great. It was great that sometimes I will be in the World War I or World War II gallery, and then it will be all off, and it is like,
Yeah.
whoa, and then you keep see those shadows,
Yeah.
and then you see the sounds. And it could be creepy when there's nobody around. But it's also fascinating. It's like you go to this cave of wonders, like, oh, now I don't have any interruptions. I mean, I don't get anything going on. And then really seeing if I can even capture the spirits, I was like, oh, maybe this is haunted. And if this is haunted, am I gonna see a pilot? Am I gonna see a very specific situation? And it's fascinating. Richard Berkman, he used to work with you guys.
Yes.
And so he is one of my mentors in a way. And he has seen me cry and bleed and mad. He has seen me my natural a stressful self doing an exhibit one time many years ago, and ever since then we're really good friends. But when I saw his work in there, and then me volunteering, first it was an intern and then volunteering in other institutions. I don't know, it's something magical and special about museums. I really really like that. I can talk a lot, so I'm gonna be throwing the ball and throwing back at you. I want to make sure that everyone is already knows a little bit more about me, but it's about you. So museums, this is that brings that sense of wonder and being curious. I know that you've been exposed to the stories, and you probably already hear it many, many times, but do you have many opportunities to experience new stories that you haven't heard, or that sense of wonder?
Yeah, well, at least in our shop, I do. And it's interesting. We were talking about the challenges and what does it mean? And, you can't experience the joy if you don't experience the challenge. And I think whether it is a museum topic or whether we're just here to serve, because I think we're here to serve the public. We're not here to dust off, in my case, airplanes and open the doors and just make sure nobody touches them. That's not relevance to me. And so you need to experience challenges and understand the challenges of the people that you're bringing to life, because otherwise, I live a completely different life. I probably have a lot less challenges than a lot of people. And so like during the pandemic, I was in every day. I was working 14-hour days, and then I had to put myself in the shoes of staff members that were lonely and hadn't left their apartment, that they're sharing with someone else or something, for months on end. And so not understanding that challenges not only lets us do our jobs, but I don't think it lets us, as you were saying, then tell the stories, because they aren't all stories of glamour or innovation or whatever. And it's easy to tell those fun stories and who broke the sound barrier and who did this and who did that. And of course, we're going to tell those stories. But we, just like in real life, where you need to know those challenges in presenting the story of, in our world, aerospace, listening to that, including the challenging ones, including what it's like to be in a plane that drops bombs and to be underneath them when they're being dropped on you. Those are both aerospace stories. And so I do get to hear inspiring things all the time. And I do get to learn new stories all the time. Now, I don't get to do it as much as I'd like in a place like yours, or places in Cleveland, Ohio, or places in Dubai, or wherever they might be, because I'm kind of focused on Boeing Field. But that's one of the joys, and I like to get down on the floor. I always, one of my favorite stories. This is completely random, but I'll tell it anyway. We had the Apollo 11 capsule at our shop during the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing, and all kinds of people come in and they want to celebrate, or they want to tell their story, or they want to donate a book or a picture or a newspaper, and we always try to greet them, no matter what it is. And so we had this one gentleman come in, and I was upstairs, and they said, well, somebody wants to talk to somebody, and nobody's around. So I'll run down and talk to him. And he's flipping through this scrapbook, and I couldn't figure out where he was going. And he was talking about 1969, the year of the moon landing, and all this stuff. And then he said, well, I was on the Hornet, and that's the aircraft carrier that recovered the capsule that Neil Armstrong and Buzz and all those guys. So they were out in the ocean. They went and got them in the big helicopters and brought them back and whatnot. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And then he starts talking about food and cooking, and I'm like, okay, I'm lost the thread again. Not sure where this is going. And finally, he goes, do you know that picture of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins in the quarantine, that Airstream trailer where they can't talk to anybody because they don't know if they got moon disease and everything like that, and they're all looking out the window smiling? I go, yeah, I know that picture. It's been in Life magazine. It's been in all these places. And he goes, well, it's cropped. I'm like, it's cropped? What do you mean it's cropped? He goes, well, right here. And he flips the page, and there he is in his sailor uniform, like this 19-year-old guy at the time, and he's standing next to this. There's Neil and Buzz and all these guys sitting in their trailer, and he's got this big wedding cake looking thing with the Apollo capsule wedding cake on top of it. And him and his buddy were the chefs for all the dignitaries and all the people that came on board, politicians and the generals and everything like that. And he had made this beautiful cake. And he was just so proud to be part of the story.
Wow.
And then this famous picture, and he's actually in it, but never made it to the magazine, because who wants to see the two sailors with the big wedding cake in it? You just want to see the famous astronauts. And it's an allegory for so much. I mean, there's a fascinating story that nobody's ever heard of and probably may never hear of.
Yeah.
It tells how we tell history. We crop the picture. They're not the quote unquote important ones.
Yeah.
And yet there's joy in this, and he just wanted to share that. And I can tell. This was 5 years ago, and I still get excited about having that conversation with this guy. And he's showing me this picture, and he shows me the menus. He's like, "Yeah, and I picked this food for this reason, and I did this." And it's this 19-year-old kid sitting on a big Navy ship, and I don't know. That to me is what you had asked about joy. That to me, it brings about so much of what we get to do.
Yeah.
And it reminds me constantly, and sometimes my board hates it, but the airplanes are the background. They are not the story. We have lots of beautiful things to look at, but it's the stories that got them there, who built them, who designed them, who was harmed by them, who was helped by them, what was the innovation that came about by them, and what are the people, and how can a young person come into the door, see themselves in that, see themselves in designing the next one, or flying the next one, or fixing the engine in the next one. That's what it's about. And so when I see a story like that or hear a story like that, I go, yes, that's it. Okay, that's it. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. That's why I'm here.
There is one thing that I have a pleasure of doing on this project. I was not expecting that. I'm not a radio person at all, so I was not like, I don't know what am I doing. But one of the things I'm getting out of this is, one, is listening to people's stories. That's one, and it's a beautiful treasure there. But two, the joy is contagious. Passion is contagious. Passion does that. Let's, come on, let's wake up. Come on, let's do this, and come on, let's find the magical spark that we are missing in all mechanical days at times. And I'm like, no, it's okay to just have a low day, but it's not okay to just that be your lifestyle. It's just, let's just like, okay, let's have fun, or let's find something that is really intriguing or sparking. And so the question of joy is dear to me, because we need that. There's so much noise out there that dims down that part of us. And so, like, this is our jobs, or volunteers, interns, donors, members, all of them are supporting us in a one way or another because they believe in the items. But you did say something about collection. I mean, objects versus people. Objects are wonderful. They're to tell a story. But for example, for us, there was an element of a Native American, a Native American exhibit, and then I refused to put an artifact in there. And my argument to that was like, I want people to see people. I don't want to concentrate on an object and then ignore the stories. I want to concentrate on people and the stories and the struggles, and just be seeing that first before an artifact, before you go, oh, look at the design, oh, look at all these things. It is great, but there's a lot of museums out there that are already doing that work. And so I want to make sure that that we see each other. All the labels that we have, we don't curate ourselves. It's the community who's write them. And so it's also a joy of saying, you got a green light. Just go for it. Just go bananas. Just tell your story as you want to be presented. And it could be in writing, it could be in an interview, it can be in a program, it can be in a field trip, whatever format that is. It is just a humbling experience to be able to hear and listen to another person and then say, okay, how do you see things? Like I know you for a few years now, I think. And I think it's the first time that I'm actually saying, okay, as a director, how do you see things?
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see the other side, the human side of it, like the soul of things is the soul of what is inside of you and the spirit of things and so what you're carrying. So
Well, what you said, I don't want to discount something you just said, which was about how the community is writing kind of the copy of the content, and I think that's such an evolved way of thinking, and it does add more relevance to what we do, and institutions like ours are still learning that. I think we're getting better at collecting more diverse and appropriate complete stories. I think we're getting better at listening to the community, and then we still go write other copy like it's our story to tell. And I think the Museum of Flight needs to evolve in ways that you already have about how you do get to that point where you can say, "Yep, it's your story. You write it. What the public reads is your story," and we still take that. We're halfway there, I guess. Where museums for hundreds of years they collect the stories that they want to tell, that they think are the most important, that what's the winners or whoever, and then they're going to interpret it. They're going to put out there what's important, and they're going to tell it their way. We're getting closer to that, but we're not there yet, and we'll get there. But those are things when we think about the future of museums, and how they continue to be relevant, and continue to tell complete stories as opposed to parsed out stories determined by someone. Then that's gonna make all of us a better place and a more relevant, and honestly, probably the only way we all survive.
Yeah, for me, just picture this. Many years ago, 20 plus years ago, I'm trying to do an exhibit and it's about pioneer family, right? So here I am, I've been trained, I've been in school and I had to do museum work. And then this family sees me and they're like, who are you? Are you telling my story? You're not even from here. It's how dare you tell you my story? And that was like, yeah, am I authorized? I can represent the museum. I can represent an institution. And I know that they were offended. They were not nice to me at that time. They were offended that I was the one, and especially as a Mexican immigrant. But they did have a point there. They did have a point like, why do I feel that I have more authority than them telling the story? So like, no. I'm here to help you. Tell me your stories. And then after I feel like a piñata. After many hits and many different angles, I was like, you know what? You're right. Just we have to evolve to don't put a print into other people's stories and don't take a bias or prejudice or take our own perspective, our own interpretation of things. And like I said, it's a very humbling experience. I repeat that a lot because it is true. I feel that it is one of, I can say, well, I take ownership of the stories and I can do this, I can do that. And in reality, I'm just a tiny little grain in the universe. And I'm not the universe. I have to be the one flowing around the universe. And I have to really just strip down my own titles and my own whoever I think I am to really say, you know what, you're right. No matter who you are, no matter what background you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what gender or age, you have the right to tell your story. And that's what kind of the seed that started. It was because a lot of friction with me. And then obviously as I continue to do the work, I realized that with our minority groups, we just don't trust museums in general. I mean, we enjoy them in a top point, but we don't see ourselves reflected in the spaces. And so how can I make those changes when the demographics are changing dramatically? So if I do want to do the job and making sure that my strategic planning is aware that the demographics will change in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, what is the direction? What are the decisions that we're taking today to make sure that the sustainability of the institution will survive? And so planting those seeds now in many different ways is just another reason why we do the work that we do. we got a few more minutes still. So you got a few more minutes. So he's still not there. So any cool projects that you have going on in your museum, like a new exhibits or programs
Oh my goodness. Well, from exhibit perspective, right now we've got about living and working in space. It's a temporary exhibit through about mid-January, and what's neat about that, we've started to build on again the story. We did one on aerospace medicine, and part of that exhibit a while ago was, why did only certain people go to space to begin with? Why do only certain people go now? And whether you had a real irregular heartbeat or you were a white man that had a family, whatever those things, what are those restraints that kept you from going into space? And that's kind of evolved now into, okay, now we haven't gotten democratic because obviously there's financial and all these other reasons why, but what's it like to dream about that? What's it like to think about it from the early days through now and what could be? And it's really a fun journey through that. So we're excited about that. And then the other thing I think that we try to do, and we do quite well, I think, is our education work. Most organizations, most museums, they inspire people so well. They have those field trips that kids get fired up, or you come with your grandparents, or on a rainy day, or whatever you do, and you get so excited, and then maybe they don't know what to do with that excitement, or maybe they don't have enough familiarity with the topic to even ask their caretaker or their community, hey, how do I get involved in that world? And so 15 years ago or so now, we decided we're going to try to build a continuum out of ways for young people and young learners to engage. And so, great, get them fired up, whether it's a camp, a field trip, a random trip on a Tuesday. And then find them something to do. In middle school, we have middle school programs for kids of color or for young women that have social activities and mentors and family activities and ways to get them to explore this. Like, is this even interesting to you? All this science stuff, And by the way, you're around a bunch of other young women that really love this science stuff, and maybe that's
so cool.
exciting. And so then they get to explore it a little bit, and we have all kinds of programming for those years. And then by the time you're reaching junior high, senior high, and you say, yeah, I think I want to do this. How do I prepare? We have high school and college credit bearing courses where with certificated teachers. We have things that people can do in the summer. Kids come to school at the museum at a flight half their day, some of them, and they can get up to 60 college credits for free. And so that part, again, if we go back to the relevance about what an institution can do, and I think all of us have different ways, that's a way for us to be relevant. And if we're doing that for young people, and we're doing it at a scale now of this small, how do we then get it to a point where we're not just changing some lives, but changing the communities they live in? And our community, our backyard is our best relationship with the school district. Other school district, but the Highline School District, and so ours is the Highline communities, and it's the Tuckwillows, the Burrians, it's the Rentons, it's the Des Moines and the Kents and the Auburns. We love everybody, and we work with these schools, we work with these families, we work with these community groups to try to get these young learners, and if they're interested and want to engage, we'll help provide a wraparound way to do that. Meaning, again, bring in the parents or the caregivers and have a conversation with them, about how to support your young one's interest. How do you not just go to curriculum, but support you in that curriculum? If English isn't your first language, okay, great. What's a group of people that can get you and work through some of these things? And so we're working that out. And for us at the museum, we get really excited about that. That's our biggest department. And that takes, and where we continue to learn and continue to grow and evolve and mature is, okay, great. We think we're doing something. Okay, stop, listen, assess and say, is this really working? Do we think it's cool? Or do the people we want to impact think it's cool? And continually do that. Never get too comfortable, because if you do, then you're probably going the wrong direction.
Involving, you cannot stay still. We rivers, we cannot stay still. So we constantly need to be involving and listening and adapting to whatever's in front of us. I mean, here we are, just lived through COVID. And so we were pushed in many different directions to continue to evolve. The same way the demographics are coming to the area. There have been many times throughout the years where I have invited parents that don't speak any English. They had never been to a museum before, ever. And so the kids speak English, but when they come, the parents are like, no, I will close the museum. This is a private tour. Come over, sit down and see what can we do. And I do all these things in Spanish, and 57% of our populations, Latino populations, are here in South King County. And so I'm really aware of those needs, but it is really throughout the years how like change the narrative is tell them, if you go to a place where you feel uncomfortable, if you don't feel like you are represented, or if you are not there, don't ever take the blame. It is the institution, it's us for not creating the space for you. And so my goal with the minority groups from that angle is bring down the shame of it and embarrass of it. And like, well, I've never been to a museum. Well, I don't feel welcome. Oh, I just don't like it. I feel like I had to be educated. I had to know this or had to know that for me to be like I belong. And so it's been a passion of mine to like blame us for that. Don't feel that is a barrier for you not to enjoy what is out there. It's just, if you blame the institution, then you removing a factor that is preventing you from truly enjoying what is in front of you. And then being able to you feel part, like, yes, you matter. And so that is the parents that have never been to museums. But then, like you said, you have opportunities with the education component that you can do programming and internships and all the different elements that allows either for them to find their path. In the museum field, there's not that much of minorities in the field, as you know. I mean, you will be in conferences and I will be talking to another person who is a person of color, and like, we'll do this or we'll do this or we'll do this. And then they're from a long distance, and then I just screening. Yeah, it's only 2 people in the whole room that it's just, minority groups. And so because of that element, or you don't think that they have permission to be on this field. And so there's another element that I'm like, no, just calm down. You are allowed. This is your story. This is your space. You're the new generation. It's okay. God, I am horrible with you. I am talking. So we got 4 minutes.
Okay.
4 minutes for you. Anything that you would like to share? Anything else that is missing? Any last message? Any last impression that you want people to hear from you?
One last message is, again, thank you. Thank you for not just doing this with me, but doing it in general. Thank you for being part of the community that is the museum community and your community. So thank you for that. I would be remiss in talking about kind of the other arm. We talked about what's it like to experience a museum, what's it like to learn at a museum. The other leg of at least our kind of mission-driven activities is the collection itself and caring for it forever, which is a kind of a daunting obligation when you think about it.
Yeah.
But we have about 14 people that do nothing but care for our collection, work with researchers. And so the museums, although I've done all this people talk, it does start with a collection for a reason. And that group has not only done a wonderful job of caring for a collection, but now starting to work with, again, collecting a more complete story, in our case of aerospace, because the stories we tell 50 years from now are going to be the ones we collect today. If we don't collect them today, then we're going to keep selling the same stories over again.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the third leg of our mission-driven stool, is that incredible collection and what it can do and what it represents. And again, how does it present a relevant story? We don't collect it just to keep it and store it in the back room. We collect it for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it's going to tell a story someday, some way, somehow. And so we've got an obligation to learn how to do better at collecting that more complete story. So those are what's going on. We're open 7 days a week at the Museum of Flight. Come on down, but also think about the other ways you can engage with our museum, whether it's through research, through education, and do so with the other amazing institutions in town. That's the only thing I'd have our listeners talk about, because every one of them has incredible things to offer and incredible people to engage with, and hopefully people can, as you say, feel comfortable and feel welcome, feel included in that conversation, because we're all going to be better for it.
I'm going to challenge you for 30 seconds, okay? So when I think about museum work, I see it that is the public face and the internal face. The public face for me is 4 phases. There's the public programming, exhibits, collections, and education.
Mhm.
So for me, there are four legs of my still, but like it's just an extra comment. The work that we do here in the museum field, I think is beautiful and it's amazing to see. I think I was listening, there was more than 400 plus museums around the state. And so that was really cool to know that we have a beautiful culture in the field. Matt, thank you for this opportunity. And yes, please be curious, discover, see what is out there, trying to see, even if you're not into space or flying, gosh, there's a lot of things that you can learn and discover and just be curious. So I just hope that you get that sense of being curious and then learn something that is literally out of the space. I mean, out there in the universe. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Matt. And so we'll see you soon again. Bye.
Bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.